everyone today. I hope that you're ready to talk about one of our fall and winter produce items. Today's segment, we're focusing on Brussels sprouts. So these look like little heads of cabbage, and they come out in the fall and the winter. They're really delicious, but there might be a little trickiness to how you cook them. So here I have a bowl, and this came from the grocery store, of Brussels sprouts. They're tight little heads of cabbage, petite, they're quite cute, they're very nutritious, and they're high in fiber. So we like to look for Brussels sprouts that have a bright green color. So you notice this little head of cabbage, he's pretty dark green, and where his leaves grow from the stalk, it's light. So it's a light whitish green. So as I said, these have come from the grocery store, and I do have from our farmer's market, these are other Brussels sprouts, and these are much smaller. And actually you can see these smaller heads. The smaller heads are more tender, and the larger heads, and we have a couple of really large heads, they can be a little tougher. So if you have a large head or large cabbage head, Brussels sprout, you might want to cook it a little longer. The smaller ones are more tender, so they're not as tough and they're not as hard. And this is a lighter green in color. Remember, this is like the bud of the plant. Think of a rose when it opens, how it starts as a tiny bud, and as the plant ages, the flower bloom appears. So this is a tight head. The leaves should be tight to the head of the cabbage. Some of these are not quite so tight. If you have some leaves that are bruised or damaged, and you see this one has a little yellow on it, you can just pull that off. So if you have, and then you have the rest of the head is quite tight. So if you have any leaves that look bruised or yellow, you might want to pull those off. Okay. So when you're preparing your Brussels sprouts, you want the head to be tight. You want to pull off the loose leaves, and I did rinse them. You see they're dripping in water. I did rinse them off. You do not have to scrub them. They don't grow in the dirt. They actually grow on a stalk, and all the little Brussels sprouts bloom off the stalk. So they grow above ground, and some of them have a rather long stem. I like to trim the edge of the stem. So if you can see, I'm cutting off just a bit on the bottom. And I have a nice clean cut, so I'm going to throw the dirty part away. At times they can be a little dirty, you see, so I put a nice fresh clean cut, and that gives me a fresh, nice white sprout. So there are a number of ways that we can cook Brussels sprouts. If you have the tender, smaller heads, I actually like to cut them in half and roast them. So they're rinsed off. You can pat them dry with a paper towel or a dish towel. You put your nice clean cut, take off those little leaves, and then you cut it in half. And you have these small heads. Then you put them in a bowl. You can toss them with a little olive oil, put them on a cookie sheet, and slide that sheet right into the oven at about 350, 375. And you roast them for about 15 minutes. Pick up the pan, roast them another 5 or 10 minutes. And when they're beginning to be bright green, and if you like them a little bit darker or roasted, a little higher oven temperature, 375 to 400, about 20 minutes, and you take them out. And it's like roasting any other vegetable. Another way to cook them, and perhaps one of the more familiar ways, is to boil them. So you take your sprout. If you're going to boil them, you keep them whole so that the leaves don't fall off and they don't come apart. The smaller heads will cook more quickly.
Miss Karen, I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, no worries. A key to getting your sprouts ready to be boiled is to cut a little X into the bottom. So in that white stem, I'm going to put a slash. And if you can see, I put one and I put a slash going in the opposite direction. And I made a little X. This allows the water to get into the stem, which is the toughest portion of the Brussels sprout, and it will help it to cook a little faster. Another way you can prepare your Brussels sprouts is to shave them. So if you take your Brussels sprout head, if you shave them, if you have a mandolin, that's a fancy tool that cuts your vegetables for you, or the good old trusted knife. And you might want to ask an adult for help with this because slicing these sprouts could be a little tricky. If you slice them thin, almost like you're making coleslaw from a head of cabbage, you see that I've sliced this very thin. And in a minute, I'll hold it up so you can get a better view. This is really a great way to prepare your Brussels sprouts. And the last time I ate in a restaurant, it happened to be in the fall of last year, the good old days before COVID, and they shaved the Brussels sprouts and they sauteed them in a frying pan. So here are my shaved Brussels sprouts. So you would shave all your sprouts into these little shards or ribbons of Brussels sprout, and you can put them in a frying pan with about 2 teaspoons of olive oil. Heat the pan and you saute your shaved Brussels sprouts. You might like to put a little garlic before you add your Brussels sprouts if you like a little flavor. And so that shaved Brussels sprouts you saute in the pan, and it's delicious. Okay, so we talked about roasting. We talked about boiling. If you take your Brussels sprouts and you prepare them to be boiled, and you put your little X in the bottom, you put them in the pot and you boil them until they're fork tender. So when you touch them with a fork, the fork will go a little more gently. It should not be mushy. If you have cooked them for too long, then they will be very mushy. We like them to be al dente, like the pasta, a little bit called to the tooth, meaning you have to bite it and chew it. It is not spreadable like peanut butter or jelly. We like it to have a little texture. That fiber is incredibly important for your health. So if you've boiled your Brussels sprouts and they are tender, you drain off the water and you can serve them with a dollop of butter or flavored olive oil. You could put a little bit of pepper flakes on them or smoked paprika. I like to put them in a honey mustard sauce. So you can take some honey mustard or make your own, a little bit of brown mustard, a tablespoon of honey. You mix it into a sauce and you just lightly glaze. We don't need a thick sauce, but a light glaze over your boiled Brussels sprouts would be Brussels sprouts in mustard sauce, and that's quite delicious. So these are really quite nutritious for you. Much like cabbage, they are very high in vitamin K. Vitamin K is something our body needs. It helps our blood to clot if we have an injury, or if you cut yourself, you don't want yourself to keep bleeding. Vitamin K helps your blood clot. So Brussels sprouts are high in vitamin K. They're high in vitamin C. You may know vitamin C from oranges and orange juice, and that is important for the health of our skin, our collagen, and it's important for our immune function, especially during times of cold season. The winter is cold and flu season. We want to protect ourselves from COVID. So vitamin C is important to have in our diet. And the Brussels sprouts are a very good source of vitamin C. So 1 cup of Brussels sprouts gives you more than 100% of your vitamin C needs for the day. And it's a great source of vitamin K. And last but not least, it's an excellent source of vitamin A. Vitamin A is important in our vision, in preventing macular degeneration, which can happen as your eyes get older, to keep your night vision healthy. So vitamin A is really important. Those are excellent sources coming from the Brussels sprout, the K, the C, and the A. We also get a little protein We get a little bit of potassium. Potassium is important for our heart beating and our muscle contractions. So athletes know that in order to run and jump and exercise, we need some vitamin, we need some potassium, and we need some vitamins to keep those energy cells fueled. We also get some folate from our Brussels sprouts, and folate is important for our brain and our muscles, our cells that are in our nervous system. So all of those vitamins and minerals come from the Brussels sprouts. So they're good for you. They provide fiber. Fiber helps to keep our bowels moving. It keeps our body feeling good. And it can prevent cancer. They're called cruciferous vegetables because they give us dietary fiber, and that helps to prevent cancer. So that's a little bit about our Brussels sprouts. When you get them home, keep them in the pouch. Sometimes they come in a little cardboard container. Keep them in that cardboard container and store them in the refrigerator until you're ready to use them. When you take them out, before you use them is when you would wash them. Don't wash them in advance because that will not be so good for your vegetables. If you wash them and put them back in the refrigerator and you forget about them, they could develop a little mold. So we don't want to do that. They're dry when you get them from the grocery store. Keep them in the fridge till you're ready to use them. When you overcook the Brussels sprouts, they have an odor, kind of like broccoli. So it's important that we don't overcook them because then they start turning a darker color. They're not bright green. They can take on a funky odor, and then they aren't as enjoyable because they have an off odor. Okay. So
what causes cancer, Miss Karen?
The question was, what causes cancer? Cancer is when your cells start developing abnormally and they grow out of control and they overwhelm the healthy cells. So the bad cells take over the good cells, and that cancer grows so fast it can make you very sick. So by having vegetables,
by smoking.
Smoking is an environmental cause. We breathe in smoke. That's coming from the environment, and so that could be cancerous. Other substances or chemicals in the air, like bus exhaust or fumes from cars, that can be that means it can cause cancer. So by eating your fruits and vegetables, we are giving the body its own immune defenses to prevent cancer. Okay, any other questions? That was an excellent question.
Is it tricky to fight cancer?
It could be tricky to fight cancer, but the reason we're teaching you to eat healthy is because we can prevent cancer. Many of our cancers are preventable by maintaining a healthy body weight, exercising, and eating right. And so when we eat our vegetables, I have a bunch of vegetables here from the market. The carrots are high in vitamin A, and we have sweet potatoes, also an excellent source of vitamin A and dietary fiber, and broccoli for vitamin C. These are all of the things that boost our immune system. And we have a natural immune system which can fight off a small number of cancer cells. When the cancer begins growing out of control is when it develops and your body can no longer fight it off. So by eating healthy, we're boosting your body's natural immune defense.
The same as coronavirus while they're trying to find a vaccine, right?
Yeah, so our body can help in preparing you to fight off coronavirus. The vaccines are going to boost your immunity. And when you eat vitamin C, vitamin A, and vitamin D, those also help strengthen your body to protect you from what can happen if you get coronavirus. So we want to eat those vegetables and fruits that give us vitamins A and C and D and a little zinc and a little folate, because that helps your body's natural immune system respond when it's under attack from viruses. And the virus could be the flu. It could be the influenza virus. So we want to teach you how to eat right because we want you to be healthy and strong because we know we're going to have our next athletic season coming up right when we get through this coronavirus.
And also it fights from the LDL to go up.
That's an excellent point because your LDL, that's a type of
It
cholesterol.
should be below 100, right?
That's
Or below 0, right?
arteries. Oh, we need a little. We need to have a little because cholesterol is a component of some of our hormones and our cell membranes. But when it gets too high, it actually acts like wax to close your arteries. And then you can't get your circulation and your oxygen and your nutrients to your body.
Or otherwise you'll end up having a heart attack.
You could have a heart attack.
Oh, wait. And also, like, how long is it going to take to lower LDL cholesterol? Was it too high? Do you know?
Well, that all depends on a number of things. It depends on how high it is. It depends on whether or not you're on any medications. It depends on your body weights and your exercise level, and of course, the diet.
It may take between 3 to 6 months, you think?
If you're doing it with diet and exercise alone, it will take about 3 to 6 months. And if your body makes too much cholesterol, then your body might still be overproducing, and then we may need to use some medication.
And it depends on the person.
Totally depends on the person because each of us has different genetics.
Yeah, let's say if my cholesterol is still high, I got to keep working on it to bring it down a little bit, keep slowly harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. It'll go down.
But that's
Right?
why
You know that?
it's important to eat right and exercise because you can do a lot to prevent those numbers from going too high.
That was a great question, Nick. Does anyone else have a question? Robert, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, so I could put this into like hot soups.
Yes, yes. And as I said, you can use the shaved Brussels sprouts in your hot soups, or you can cut them or quarter them. I would not put them in whole because, first of all, it's a big bite. You can't get it into your mouth without difficulty. So you do want to cut them, and they are excellent to put in soups.
Like I was like put like into like noodle soups.
Yes, we definitely want to boost that noodle soup with some vitamins and minerals.
And
Yeah.
also HDL should be 40 to 60, right?
We like the HDL to be over 60.
Should HDL be high or low?
Higher is a little more protective for your cardiovascular health, your heart health.
My HDL is 84.
That's fantastic. Good.
Is HDL 84 good?
Yes, that's good.
Yep.
Keep exercising.
Kimmy, I see you have your hand raised. Did you want to unmute yourself?
I was wondering how long does the Brussels sprout grow? Does it take months? Does it take weeks? How long?
It takes months because it starts from a little plant and it grows a stalk like Jack and the Beanstalk. You have a thick stalk and then all of your Brussels sprouts, maybe 50 or 60 Brussels sprouts grow off your stalk. And that takes a few months for the stalk to develop the tiny buds into full Brussels sprouts.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So the fall is Brussels sprout season, which is why we start seeing them. It is a winter vegetable. And so they're great in soups and stews, or you can just eat them. If you shave them, as we have here, you can add them to your salads.
Great question, Kimmy. Michael, I see you're unmuted. Did you have a question for us?
No.
All
No.
right.
I do. Like, remember, like, sometimes it can be elevated, sometimes it just keeps going up just a little bit, and then it may go down. Do you know that?
Cholesterol you're talking about.
Huh?
Are you talking about your cholesterol going up and down?
Yeah, sometimes it just keeps going up just a little bit,
Yeah.
and the
So-
LDL just a very little bit.
Your diet's high in saturated fat, that can add to your cholesterol levels increasing. Or if you have a gain of in weight, a significant weight gain, and you put on more body fat, or you're eating a lot of fried or fatty foods and there's more fat in your blood, that can have an impact on your cardiovascular health.
Right. You know, it's okay to have every now and then.
Every now and then we have a little bit of treats, but we have to keep balance. It's very important to have balance in your diet.
So remember, as we get older, it's going to be very, very tricky to lower cholesterol.
Yes, our cholesterol could change as we get older because our activity levels change and sometimes we are not as active. And we gain weight as we get older.
Good point. So if everyone could just give me a thumbs up if they'd be interested in trying Brussels sprouts. Give me a thumbs up if you think that this is a food that you'd like to try. I know that this is one of my favorites for Christmas dinner. We always have Brussels sprouts at Christmas dinner. So, okay, looks like you guys are interested.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Andrew, did you have a question? Let me see if I can unmute you, Andrew. All right. If we don't have any other questions. All right. Well, thank you, Karen. I hope everyone learned a lot from today's lesson. Thanks again for being with us. And I am going to give everyone today's nutrition or weekly nutrition code word, which is green for our Brussels sprouts. GREEN, green.